What's going on, guys? Welcome on back to the Second and Short podcast here on the Mosaic MC Network. I am your host, Tyler Lauder, joined with Mosaic MC East, Jason Teasley. And today we are going to be dropping our very first 12-team Superflex mock draft. There's going to be a lot of these going on everywhere. I suggest that if your rookie drafts didn't take place right after this week, the draft in this past weekend, that you guys kind of dive in, see everybody's picks, kind of put together your own evaluations. And I just completed one. I'm about to finish a second, and I have a third going on right now. How many rookie drafts you got going on right now, Jason?
I've got five. I've got five going right now. One completed last night. I'm in the second round of one we was talking off air that I just made a pretty nice deal for giving up, getting a 2024 first for 2.5. So I'm in the midst of it. I've got like 3 or 4 more coming up this weekend. So I'm full-fledged immersed.
Absolutely. Yeah, same here. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump on into this. So 12-team Superflex. It is going to follow the format of a full-point PPR, and which I believe is pretty baseline at this point of taking over single quarterback and taking over non-PPR. And with this, essentially, what we're going to do is it's not necessarily going to be just like an ADP or like these are our rankings because we're not combining together. This is my picks when I'm on the clock, his picks when he's on the clock. That's how we're going to kind of go through it. So it's going to be cake for a while, but we'll get to chaos pretty soon. And to start off, number one, the 1.1 everywhere, no matter who you are, is Bijan Robinson from the Atlanta Falcons. He went at the number 8 pick in the NFL draft, so he has high draft capital. Gets this whole, he doesn't even get the generational tag, but he gets comp to LaDainian Tomlinson. He's going to a place that has essentially still a rookie quarterback in Desmond Ridder, so they're going to run the ball a lot. Now, we've talked about this. I've said this a lot everywhere. Atlanta doesn't have a great defense. They don't get to the quarterback hardly at all, so I don't think they're going to be, in close games a lot because their defense is holding people. I do think that will limit him, but I think first and second quarter, first half, he's going to average 15 touches. I feel like a half is where he's going to be. 12 to 15 is where he's going to be. I don't see anybody else taking that from him. Good pass catcher, 3 down back. And I think even if you're a team that is like, oh, I don't have a quarterback or anything, or this is the best pick to make. And the reason why, I currently am doing a startup. I've done 2 startups, bookend in the NFL draft. Bijan Robinson's a first-round pick in all startups, in all Superflex startups. He's going in the top 12. No other quarterback is in this rookie class, and the receivers aren't even getting touched until the 3rd or 4th round. Based on value alone, he's at his highest peak value right now. We're talking Jonathan Taylor of 2 years ago, Christian McCaffrey of 3 years ago, guys that you can get 3, 4 first for. And I just think it's the safest pick for you to take. It's a great trade-off spot if you need everything. But Bijan Robinson should be locked in as number 1. You're on the clock with the number 2.
I'm going with the second running back here, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think this was a surprise during the NFL draft when the Lions jumped up and everybody took it as a reach. Get him, even us. But because, you still had Swift there, but Swift's trading. You still have Montgomery there, so he's not going to be leaned on a whole lot, but he has a huge upside, great hands, really quick feet. He's got nice elusiveness when he's breaking out downfield, so he's the dual threat running back. He's going to a Detroit Lions team that is definitely on the upswing. They have weapons all over the place. And their defense is actually looking pretty nice. So this is a Lions team that I could see making a playoff run and getting a nice 1-2 punch. I make this comparison a lot back in the Giants days when you had Bradshaw Jacobs. This is something that you're going to have Montgomery going to be able to pound people, who is still a young back. Then you're going to have Gibbs coming out, taking that open field looseness, taking on linebackers, going across the middle, being able to separate himself, and actually making some yards after contact.
Now, for anybody that is listening along, or watching, and you might be surprised, I actually just completed a rookie draft, as I just said. And actually, these were the 1 and the 2 in that Superflex mock draft, or Superflex draft. It wasn't even a mock. And that guy's his quarterbacks are Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, and he still went with these two. So it can happen. It can happen. And Jason has not really given his hot take on it yet and everything, but he is very high on Gibbs, almost to the point where if he could take him a 1, maybe he would. So, but we're going to go ahead and keep things going here. At the 1.3, I'm going to take Anthony Richardson, quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. There's one big reason on why, and that is rushing upside. The fact that he's able to get you those rushing yards in fantasy is such a game changer. It's the reason why guys like Lamar Jackson have been like a QB1. Guys like Cam Newton have been a QB1, like the QB1 for respective seasons. And so with that being said, I just think that he's a guy that seems to keep improving. He's got all these great tools. He's got the rushing upside that if he can get you 500 rushing yards and like 6 rushing touchdowns, it makes up for so much if he's not getting, 4,000 plus, passing yards every year. And so I just think the upside is very, so it's something you got to take right here, because if he hits, he's, he's Josh Allen, he's Jalen Hurts, he's a QB1. He's one of those guys that, while his ADP in startups right now is probably around like the high 3rd, late 2nd round, he will be a 1st round pick next year in startups if he hits early in his career. So the value on the return is just so much higher for him.
Coming in at number 4, I'm taking your boy, the number 1 overall pick of the NFL draft, and Bryce Young. I think he has a lot of tools that can build around Carolina. They've got some receivers. It's got some veteran receivers that came in. They got a nice receiver that you talked about that I just traded the pick for. That's coming in with Mingo to build with him. He's got great eyesight. I've done a little bit more research than previously done. His athleticism is only matched by his intelligence, and that's what you want in a quarterback. You want to see somebody reading the field. He gets knocked on his size. I'm one of the people that knocked on his size, but if you're back there, you're scrambling, you're making plays, size doesn't matter. You can get out of the pocket. I mean, we've seen Drew Brees do it and have a Hall of Fame career. So this is definitely the floor that I see Young going at. If he gets past 4, I think it's a steal and super flex, because not only is he going to be an NFL quarterback you can build around, he's going to be a quarterback you can build your fantasy team around as well.
Yeah, and we're not going to go too much and comment on each other's picks and everything, but I do want to say, though, that it seems like you've kind of flipped the script from our NFL draft on quarterbacks, which, these things happen. They switch up, and I think you've got a great cast for them to help them succeed. The next guy that's going to go at 1.5 here is going to be CJ Stroud. I have personally drafted him at the 105 in a rookie draft, and I think it's the ideal spot. I don't really think there's an opportunity really for him to go any lower. If I could see if somebody traded and they own the 5 and they have 3 good quarterbacks on their team, and sure, if you have a tier 1 and a tier 2 and a tier 3 guy, like some situation where you have like a Mahomes, Burrow, and like a Dak or Cousins and like a Geno Smith, sure, you could probably go with a different route, get one of the receivers here. But I think ultimately those Stroud should be in the top 5 conversation. Ultimately, I think if you rearrange the top 5, the 2 through 5 in any other order, I think you're fine. There is like a personal touch of like, Bryce Young has the best coaching staff around him, so you feel more secure. Or it's like CJ Stroud, has the trust of like a GM and a team that's willing to trade and like move up and get good stuff for him. Or you have like the Colts, and it's like, Well, the Colts seem to produce pretty good quarterbacks whenever they have them in. I won't argue with you on any of those stuff. But with the number 6 pick, 1.06, you are on the clock.
I'm taking your first wide receiver off the board. That should be the first wide receiver off any board with JSN. Landing in Seattle was a dream of his. Playing the slot with Lockett and Metcalf with an experienced quarterback in Geno who had seen an emergence is probably one of the best case scenarios for him and his career. Metcalf doesn't have the years on him, so he's still going to be in town for a while. Lockett is getting up there, but still producing. Everybody that's listed this before knows my love for Lockett. And Seattle and Pete Carroll just have a knack for producing a slot receiver that does good. I mean, you look back at like Golden Tate, Doug Baldwin. These receivers have produced and been fantasy relevant in Seattle, but also they didn't have the Lockett and Metcalf dynamic with them. So this should be your first receiver off the board. He's going to produce. The only way that this should be is if you have a trade that you can move back and somebody that needs a position better that may want to jump up there, or if you have a position need. But I still think even you go best player available right here in JSN.
Yeah, and I think we're going to hit a territory where it's going to be just like the NFL draft where like receivers come off the board 4 in a row. I think it's going to be kind of similar here for a couple picks. And I'm with the number 7 pick, I'm going to stay at receiver as well. I'm going to take Quentin Johnston for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think he is, for a lot of people, and I was one of those people too, like I had him as like, it's not really the 1B, but he was very close to the number 1 receiver for me. JSN was the number 1 guy, but I think Quentin Johnston is in a really good spot where if we look at all the landing spots for all the receivers in the first round, just those top 4, he has the best young quarterback to build with for a long time. And that's something that nobody's really looking at or talking about. It's like we look at guys like Addison. It's like, well, he gets to play with JJ, or Flowers. He's like, well, Flowers, is this high upside guy that we have too? Or JSN gets, he has these other good receivers. But Quentin Johnston has something from all of those. He gets to play with an elite option in Keenan Allen. He gets to play with a good group with also having Mike Williams there. But he also gets that upside of a high-passing quarterback like Justin Herbert. So I think when you put all the tools together, Quentin Johnston is a guy that could turn into what we all thought like Mike Williams was going to be. Mike Williams, I believe, is 27, entering 28. Keenan Allen is 30, going on 31. So there's room for him to kind of slide in there going into next year. And he doesn't have to be an impact guy right away. A lot of these picks don't have to be an impact guy right away. But I think he's one of the few picks in this draft that I almost guarantee next year his value just skyrockets.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about that, I showed you this. He actually went 1-1 in a rookie draft that I'm currently in, which is insane.
Is a little extreme. They must be a Chargers fan or like a T. I don't even know. Even at that point, straight down.
But coming up with the next pick, I think this is the we say we group all 3 of these wide receivers together. My next pick is going to be Addison. We talk about playing opposite of an elite talent, playing opposite of Jefferson is going to benefit him tremendously. Jefferson's going to draw all the attention. He's going to be able to make a lot of plays down the stretch. You do have the addition of Hawkinson in there that's also going to open up the field. And we've seen what Adam Thielen did in Minnesota. He leaves a big void for Addison to step right in and contribute immediately and help this offense get over the hump, as well as help your fantasy team build a great wide receiving core.
We have hit we've hit a line right here. There's a couple lines that we have. Like your 1 through 4 are about, or I guess not even that. Number 1 is normally Bijan Robinson. It's kind of a line. Then 2 through 5 is Gibbs and the quarterback. There's your line. And then 6 through 8 is the 3 receivers. And then we had a couple line, a big space where
A cliff.
a cliff to some. To me, I don't think there's a cliff. I think there's still good value here. What I see with a lot of people is that they go with running backs. They go with these, round 2 and round 3 guys. They go with a position like a tight end that is, in their eyes, going to be something that's going to benefit, which is fine, sure. But we got to remember the disparity of, tight end 1 to versus like tight end 5 is a bigger gap, versus other positions, even when you keep going down like that. So for me, I think this is Zay Flowers, the number 9. He's been falling down in some drafts. People are saying that he should be at the back end of the first. He shouldn't be. This is a guy that was getting argued of being maybe the 1.5, the 1.6 in that range with JSN and Gibbs and the last quarterback before the NFL draft. Now all of a sudden he goes somewhere and we're all like, well, they have Odell Beckham Jr. for a year. Oh, yeah, but they have Rashad Bateman, who hasn't stayed healthy and can't prove he's a number 1. Well, yeah, but they don't really throw. I'm sorry, Todd Monken is the new offensive look guy there. Why do you think the offense is going to stay the same route that hasn't brought them a Super Bowl in the past 4 years? No, I think it's going to evolve. I think they're going to throw more. I think they're still going to run a lot, but Baltimore is a team that is designed to not allow a lot of points, and then they're going to run a lot of play. They run a lot of plays, and I don't think now that Lamar has this big contract, I don't think he's going to run as much as he does.
No,
I just don't. I don't see it, and it's not going to be designed. So Zay Flowers is going to come on in, have this cast of people ahead of him, where it's going to be OBJ, Bateman, Andrews. People are still super high on Dobbins. I'm not one, but never was. But they're still out there preaching because they spent a top 3 pick on him a couple years ago, and they don't want to have a bad take. But come year 2, his value is going to jump. I think all these guys, these receivers, are in great spots that in year 2 we're going to see this big impact. And so, if you can trade like a wide receiver 2 for like this range and get this guy, I think it's a good deal for you, because I think eventually that's where he's going to be, and he's going to develop to be Lamar Jackson's favorite receiver.
Yes, fully agree. I love Flowers in this position. Now, here's where I'm gonna make what some people call a reach, and I may get a surprise out of you. This is a guy that I'm huge on, not only because of landing spot and situation, but I've seen him a lot in the Big 12. He's got talent. He's a nice running back. He squares his shoulders good, got a quick cut, and that's going to be Kendra Miller. I think landing in the Saints with the Kamara instances, he's going to be able to step in and produce. I mean, they do have Jamal Williams there, but, if Kamara does get a suspension, he's going to see the looks early. And plus, a lot of people don't realize Kamara is in that twilight, starting to get in that twilight of his career. You've seen significant diminishing returns on him every year. So if you didn't get out on him last year, try to get out on him this year. Try to get his replacement in Kendra Miller, who, I think is going to be a great asset in that Saints offense.
Yeah. Back-to-back surprises there. I'm gonna keep it going. At the 111, I'm taking Will Levis, tight end, quarterback, for Tennessee Titans. I'm not going to fall into this tight end trap that everybody's trying to fall into. Will Levis for me at 11 makes the most sense. I was talking about this with you and a bunch of other people. I fully believe that the Titans were trying to trade up into the back end of the first round to get like a 5th-year option for Levis. And I think that they ran into a couple of issues. They ran into Philly having Nolan Smith just fall in their laps, and Philly just being like, well, we can't move down now. I mean, it's Nolan Smith. We got to take him. Like, this guy wasn't supposed to be here. And then the Kansas City Chiefs are drafting at 31, and they're hosting the draft, and their fans have been sitting here for 6, 7, 8 hours They couldn't wait all the way to 31 and then be like, we're going to draft tomorrow, guys. Just kidding. I think they had to draft. I'm not saying like a team wouldn't take a good deal if it was there, but I think they had to draft. So I fully believe that the Tennessee Titans were trying to move up into the first round to get Will Levis. There were some reports out there that are kind of saying that this possibly was happening. And it's something I've been speculating since night one of the draft. He comes into a spot where Ryan Tannehill is in the last year of his contract. The Tennessee Titans team looks like a team that is willing to kind of rebuild. He comes in with getting a number one option in Treylon Burks that he can develop and build with, something that the other three quarterbacks didn't necessarily, they don't have. They don't have like, I mean, Richardson kind of does and Pittman, but I'm just like, compared to Stroud and Young, like they don't have like a young guy to build with that's already been in the league for a year now. And so I think that's very beneficial to Will Levis. Plus, he also has a really good run game behind him, pending Henry staying. They brought in Spears as well. They have a nice tight end. I think the Titans are a team that, for some reason, we don't like, but correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure 2 years ago, Ryan Tannehill was like quarterback 13 or 14 in fantasy football. And he was throwing to A.J. Brown, sure, but that was it. He was handing it off to Derrick Henry 300 times a year, and he was throwing to A.J. Brown. So I don't see too much in Austin Hooper, I think, was his tight end. So I think Will Levis here, it's a super flex. Some people are like, you shouldn't take him in the first. It's a super flex. If he is a capable starting quarterback, his value goes up. It just goes up. There's no way it doesn't. And I would rather take him over taking a round 2 or 3, a skill position or taking a tight end.
Yeah, funny you mentioned tight end because that's where I'm going here, taking the most people's tight end 1 and Dalton Kincaid. This is a really head scratcher for me when Buffalo drafted him, but then I started seeing the potential. The 2 tight end set. The fact that Allen does go outside the pocket, he does hit, knocks on a lot in. So you're going to have the ability to run 2 tight end sets. You're going to have another big body, another big red zone to take the pressure off of Diggs. I think this is a great thing that's going to be a chain mover, as we like to say. And this is going to be a target that you will see landing in here in probably the back half of the first, early second, that you can get and be an immediate impact on your team.
And Dalton Kincaid runs a lot of routes out of the slot as well. So that's something that we're going to have to look at. That 2 tight end sets, sure, but he might step on as their third receiver. I mean, he's got a really good route tree. He's a really good pass catcher. I think he has a good chance to essentially be like the number 2 receiver on this team, is what it could look like. So, and that's our first round. Let's go ahead and a little overboard here so you can kind of see everything. Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. At 6 is JSN, then Quentin Johnson, Jordan Addison. 9 is Zay Flowers, Kendre Miller, Will Levis, and Dalton Kincaid round out our first round. And you know what? Let's keep going. Let's go to the 2-1. We're going to talk about our next picks in this mock draft. Remember, we are doing a Superflex PPR mock draft. So far, we have 4 quarterbacks off the board. We have 3 running backs, 4 receivers, and 1 tight end. We are going to reverse here, and I'm going to let you go first now. You'll get the odds, I'll get the evens. So we'll kind of mix it up. So go ahead and give us the 2.01 here.
This is a guy that I think is going to create a dynamic backfield. And I'm going to go with Trebonnet in Seattle, that you're going to be pairing with KW3, who, had some injury concerns last year. But, I mean, you're getting a second predominant running back here. I mean, we've seen the likes of Rashad Penny succeed there. Even DJ Dallas getting some looks and success. Even Chris Carson, before the neck injury, was successful in Seattle. And adding him into this offense just takes the pressure off of Walker. and he doesn't have to get all that physical wear and tear that running backs do and shorten his career.
Yeah, and I mean, I think getting a guy like this, Charbonnet is a guy that was getting argued anywhere around like 1.6 to like 1.8 range as well pre-draft. Obviously, landing spot kind of was something that people were looking at and kind of wanting. But I mean, this guy was great at Michigan. He was great at UCLA. I think he's going to be good in the NFL. Sure, it cuts off the legs of being a 3-down back, but there's not a lot of 3-down backs in the NFL anyways. So I don't think we should be stressing too much or worrying about that. And you never know. You never know what injury is going to prevail. And yeah, this is like literally a Rashad Penny, Chris Carson. You know, we're back on the wheel, and here it goes again.
Yeah.
At the next pick here, at the 2.02, I'm going to be going with Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver out of Carolina, from Ole Miss. They took him at pick 39, second round pick, and Steve Smith was really gawking over this guy pre-draft. And there's words out there that Steve Smith dipped his toes in scouting and was like, this guy is the guy we should have. He's a great build. He's a great fit. He does all these tools, and Carolina Panthers went on and got it. And I've been talking this whole process about maybe they're going to pair him with a receiver. I thought they were going edge rusher in the second round for sure. They traded up for one in the third, but yeah, it's a great pairing for him. He doesn't have to come in and be the number one guy right away too, which is kind of something that's kind of crazy. Every receiver that kind of went in the first, I think it was like the first 7 or 8 receivers. Actually, there's not a single receiver that came into this draft out of it and has to go in to be like the number one guy the next year. But they all kind of have vets in front of them. So, I mean, Jonathan Mingo gets to sit behind and learn from Adam Thielen for a little bit. And his competition is Terrence Marshall Jr., who hasn't really shined too much. His competition is Laviska Shenault, who hasn't shined too much. It's, so it's Shi Smith. So really, this guy, DJ Chark has a 1-year deal and he's out. And so I think he's a great pick here at 2.02, where you can put him down as like your receiver 7 probably on your team at this point. And he can just kind of sit on your taxi for a year if you got that. And next year, he's going to look like a guy that we're going to go, why did he go in the first round? Like he's Bryce Young's favorite target. What is going on here?
And this is going to expose me, I guess, because I'm kind of navigating and toward teams, and I'm picking players from the same team, especially with this. I'm going to Sam Laporta for the Lions here, who need a tight end since losing Hawkinson to the Vikings last year in a trade. I think this has immediate opportunity to step in, be a good target for Goff, who loves his tight end. Hawkinson had a lot of success with Goff in Detroit, but this is a big-bodied receiver that is going to be without their one of their top receivers from last year, and Williams, because he likes to gamble. But this is going to be an immediate plug-and-play guy that you could set, and he doesn't have to be an impact, but he will be an impact player for 2 to 3 years. Typically, what I give tight ends to develop, and when you're going to see that return is going to be massive.
Absolutely. Now, I will say that this is potentially a little bit of a reach here and everything, but to be honest, if there's a guy you like in the second round, I've seen him in both drafts. He hasn't fallen past like the 7 to 8. So really, if you're at 2-3, he's your guy. It's the same thing as trading down and hoping he falls type thing. And Detroit Lions had a lot of touchdowns to their tight ends last year. There's not a position that they necessarily needed to address, but they did. And Laporta's a guy that a lot of people in the pre-draft process loved. And we're just kind of like, well, yeah, but he's just in this class where, guys are just a little bit better than him in a couple aspects, but he's a well-rounded tight end. And he goes to a situation where he doesn't have a lot of competition to actually be the man. Now we're going to go, this is not a pick that I personally love to make, but I do think it is one that will get made at this spot. And I think that this is where I would be trading out because people would love to come up and get him. But Devon Achane is who I'm going with here for the Dolphins, who really don't have much in his way of taking over. Now, he was drafted 84th overall, so a third round pick. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, granted, we do have lots of third round picks in the NFL that are starting running backs, but the hit rate drops, though. It does drop. And while he only has to compete with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson currently, there's rumors out there of all these vets getting cut or sent to Miami because who knows? But also, if you remember, Miami, we can't really trust them that they're going to run with any particular guy, but they like speed, and he's got the need for speed, and speed kills in this game. And if he can get in the open field with how fast he is and how shifty, he could be a big play guy. Something similar to like, and play style's not the same, but I'm just saying like fantasy wise to like Miles Sanders in like year 2 and 3, where he's a guy that's like, man, yeah, he only had 8 touches, but one of those was a 70-yard touchdown. It's like that, like where he's going to be one of these guys that for him to have really good weeks before he's never going to be a 3-down back, but he's going to have one of those big plays. And I think Miami's a perfect team because nowadays, as Greg Olson said, you pass to set up the run, and that team's got a lot of speed out there with Tyreek Hill, Robbie Anderson, or Chosen Anderson, and they have, Jalen Waddle still there. And adding that, that's a good passing core that, well, crap, now what are we going to do? Oh, we'll pitch it out to him. We'll throw a screen out to a chain, and he's just going to take it to the house. And I think it's going to happen. I think these guys in this rookie year is going to probably score like 6-7 touchdowns, and I guarantee most of them, they're going to be the opposite of like Jamal Williams, where it's not like 1-1-1. It's going to be like 25, 40, 30, 60. Like it's going to be all of it.
Yeah. And then coming up here, I think this is a pick that is creating a lot of buzz because of a lot of rumor mills going on with the NFL as a whole, as a league. And I'm jumping up and taking Taj Spears, who lands in the Titans, who Derrick Henry is got a lot of wear and tear on him. And there's rumors that they're shopping him and everything. And without Henry, this backfield is a barren land. So he would have the immediate opportunity to step in. I think he has a skill set that would fit the Titans going forward and their future. Not necessarily having to hand the ball 300 times, but getting a solid 20 carries a game and with a solid stat line of going anywhere. I would predict him going anywhere between 4 and 4.4 yards a carry with this offense. Because they're starting to open it up. They've got, as you mentioned, Levis coming in. This is a running back you could grab, stash in this position, and just wait for the payoff and the dividends to roll in, possibly end of this year, early next.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really got Hassan Haskins is the guy in front of him. And so while we're winding down here and everything, we're going to kind of rapid fire these last few picks here. So at the next pick, the 2.6, I'm going to go with a running back that I think should probably be drafted a lot higher. But this is kind of the range I think he'll fall into. For me, I do have him a little bit higher. I know the community has a chain higher, so that's why I kind of just went with it. But Roshan Johnson, Chicago Bears, he's got to compete with Devontae Foreman and Khalil Herbert, two guys that I don't think are locked in as the guy. And I think that this is one of those guys that, like, if he didn't play at Texas and he played somewhere else, he would have been a higher draft pick. Sure, some people are saying he still would have been behind Gibbs, but I think Roshan Johnson is a guy that has a good chance to be a starting running back next year at the 2.7.
I'm jumping on Jaden Reed. I think he's getting added to a Packers offense that's going to have a very new look since Rodgers left. Great young, talented receivers, and the Love era entering, and he can build with him. I think that's going to be a huge upside and asset.
Yeah, and then at the next pick, I'm going with Josh Downs, wide receiver that goes to Indy. I thought he had round 2 draft capital on his way, but ends up falling to the 3rd. but goes into a good spot where he doesn't have to beat out too many people. I think he is already established in my mind as like probably the number 2 receiver there. It's a really good spot for him to help develop with Richardson and have Pittman next to him.
And as I stated, some people's going to think I'm a Lions fan here, but I'm going to take Hendon Hooker to stash to wait and just reap benefits on your bench, on your taxi, and then step into an offense that's going to be electrifying.
And I'm going to go with Michael Myers, tight end out for the Raiders. He steps into a spot where he doesn't have much competition to, be the guy, a good pass catching crew around him, of a complete running or tight end that is going to be on the field a lot, as he is a good run blocker as well.
I'm going to take an interesting pick here with Rashid Rice, who's going to step into be potentially Patrick Mahomes' favorite receiver. The loss of Juju is going to open up a lot of targets. And this is somebody that can step in and create a high-powered receiver to give Mahomes another weapon in a high-potent offense.
And with the last pick in the second round, I'm going to go with running back Chase Brown, who is literally just waiting for the NFL to do whatever they want for Mixon. He gets to be the starting guy. And with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. This is the Second and Short podcast on the Mosaic MC Network. Please make sure you guys subscribe down below, give us 5-star ratings everywhere else, and we'll be dropping off our positional rankings as well for Dynasty. Thank you. Have a good one.